got into this current gig because general dentistry, it's wonderful, but it gets a little old shucking teeth and doing root canals and convincing kids to keep their mouths open. So this is a really interesting thing to get into. So obviously we're talking about sleep, and this is kind of a little mysterious aspect of human nature. We don't really know why we sleep. There are a lot of theories as to what sleep does for us, but before anybody can answer the question, why do we sleep, we need to answer the question, why we're awake. So if anybody has an idea on that, let me know. But there are problems with sleeping, and obviously we've been talking, I've been talking a lot since I've been in the group about snoring and sleep apnea. And even though sleep apnea is a fairly new science, the effects of it have been known for a long time, including snoring, as evidenced by this ad from a 1917 newspaper, which says, "I am desperately trying to find a cure for my husband's snoring. After being married for 27 years, I'm convinced there is no cure other than killing him," which is illegal, as you know. So obviously we know that snoring is a problem, and I've talked about why snoring happens. It's the relaxation of the soft tissues in the airway when you sleep, and the air that goes by it causes the vibrations that create snoring. We talked about how snoring is a huge social issue. Obviously, if anybody slept with someone who snores, you know the problems, but this was an interesting study that showed about 80% of snoring couples don't share the same room, and about 57% of couples said snoring creates arguments and tension with their partner. And then obviously where we come in, a lot of people who snore have sleep apnea. So what we'll be talking about here briefly today is what is sleep apnea, how it's diagnosed, how it's treated, and if you have it, what could you do about it. So when we look clinically at an airway, this is what we would like to see. We've got nice pink tissue, everything's pretty symmetrical. You can actually see down the airway a little bit because the tongue isn't blocking the airway. But oftentimes what we see when we're dealing with, oftentimes when we deal with patients in the clinic, this is what we see. The tissue is really inflamed. All that vibration from the snoring creates a lot of inflammation. The tissue swells up. Sometimes there are tonsils in the way, and oftentimes we're dealing with this huge tongue which is blocking the airway. It's got scallop marks from clenching and that type of thing, which leads me into the main blocker for the airway is actually not Gene Simmons, but the tongue. And actually you might recognize this guy because this was actually Franklin last Halloween. So I'm going to drop this down here for a second. Got a little video. I haven't figured out how to insert the video into this.
Is it the one for me from Halloween, or?
Uh-oh, where'd it go? Okay, I'm going to have to reopen that, guys. Sorry. Uh-oh.
There it goes.
Well, it should be a green screen.
It's loading.
Oh, it's loading?
Yeah.
I've got another version over here. Here we go. No?
It's loading.
It's loading. Huh.
Down at the bottom.
Well, it's never done this before.
You
Yeah,
have to
no
be patient.
Wi-Fi.
It's a Wi-Fi.
I don't have time, Joan. Seriously, this has never come up like this before.
And
So.
tried it on a projector before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
sometimes they're
It's
loaded
still-
where they'll
No,
show on the
no, this is
primary
working out here.
and not on the secondary.
Well, that's
It's still loading.
still loading, really.
So go on to the next piece.
Well, I can't go on to the next piece because it's part of the presentation. Basically, what you're going to see here, though, is a video of somebody who's sleeping who has sleep apnea. And the couple of the keys to this is that there is snoring, but it tends to be more of an intermittent type snoring. It's not that continuous rhythmic snoring. And then intermittently, there's going to be pauses in the snoring when there is no air going in and out. This causes the brain to say, "Wake up, dummy, I can't breathe." So then the body wakes up. A gasp or a choking sound happens as a deep breath occurs. And yeah, that's not right. So this is a little dissection. You guys don't need to see this. So.
Ah.
I went to high school.
This is how we learn anatomy in dental school. So anyway, I'll continue. We'll just have to not have the video today. A couple of quick definitions. An apnea is when you actually stop breathing. That's for 10 seconds or more. A hypopnea is like a little baby apnea. You don't actually stop breathing, but there's much less oxygen going to the brain. And we put the number of apneas and hypopneas you have together in an index for how many happen in an hour. And basically, if you have less than 5 of these events per hour, you're normal. If you have 5 to 15, mild, 15 to 30 moderate, and this is typically where I work with most of our patients. You have over 30 per hour, that's considered severe sleep apnea. I've seen up to 93 events per hour, which is every 45 seconds, and there are people who are even worse off than that. A lot of signs and symptoms. Obviously, we've talked about snoring. People tend to be tired. They tend to wake up gasping or choking. Their sleep is not refreshing. They wake up a lot to go to the bathroom at night. They have mood issues, impotence, headaches, all types of things. This is really that kind of describes a lot of my friends. I don't know about you guys, but it's really not, though, much of a laughing matter, because we also see people have a higher likelihood of falling asleep at the wheel when they have sleep apnea, so that might be one of those motor vehicle incidents that Dr. Garg was talking about. Huge economic losses, and 350% increased risk of death. This is why I keep hammering people, if you snore, get tested. You need to know if there's sleep apnea present. We have a lot of medical issues, heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure, diabetes, and even erectile dysfunction. At least 1 in 4 people we think have sleep apnea. It's not nearly as common with kids, but we're seeing more kids developing this because of the obesity epidemic that's out there now. This I call my bad sleep pie. This is really the reason I got into treating sleep. Even though 1 in 4 people have sleep apnea, only about 10 to 20% have been diagnosed. 80 to 90% of people don't even know they have it. Again, if you snore, get tested, find out if this is an issue for you. How you diagnose this? In the past, it would be going to a sleep lab for a polysomnogram and spending the night. Typically these days, we're doing home sleep testing, which is very easy. It's done in the comfort of your own home. Bottom line is this has to be diagnosed by a sleep physician before I can touch them. Treatments for sleep apnea, CPAP. This is the mask. A lot of you are aware of this. What it's like. There are surgical procedures where they actually remove soft tissue from the airway. Those don't tend to work as well, and then this is where we come in, again, with oral appliance therapy as dentists. There are some people who have sleep apnea because of obesity, and if you lose enough weight, you can actually lose enough weight to get out of your sleep apnea. This is a CPAP, and about half the people, 40 to 50% of people who use or get one will stop using it. You can kind of imagine some of the issues you might deal with if you have to put this mask on at night, but they work beautifully. So people who do use them, we don't want to disturb that. But for people who don't use them, what we do is oral appliance therapy. Basically, an appliance works by holding the jaw down and forward, and has various effects on the airway. And this is basically what happens when you do CPR. So you hold the jaw forward, tilt the head back, and if you can get your spouse or bed partner to do this for you all night long, you don't need to. There are 50, 60 different variations of these appliances on the market. Won't go into that too much here today. And in summary, again, there's millions of people in this country who have sleep apnea. There's only about 10% who are diagnosed. It creates a lot of health issues. It's not something to ignore. Treatment, we talked about the different treatments. Bottom line, untreated sleep apnea has, patients have about 350% increased risk of sudden death. So if you snore, please get tested. And there's a little shot from our place out east. Thank you very much.
Here's the coach.